Why was he in Moscow?
Well, I don't know what he was doing exactly, but he was a communist, and he was, of course, his main concern then was economics rather than philosophy. I didn't meet him until some years later, in fact, 1939, so 7 years later. But Kurt Gödel was there, young man. His tremendous contribution, his proof of the incompletability of number theory, had been published just the year before, 31. And I talked some with him. He was rather shy, withdrawn, not at all outgoing, but friendly. And then there was oh yes, and of course perhaps I should have said the leading figure was not Hans Hahn really, but he would be second in command, you might say. But Moritz Schlick, and ethics and epistemology, his field. And then there was Friedrich Weissmann. Well, Weissmann, I remember at the first meeting of the Vienna Circle I went to, I was invited only rather late in the term by Schlick, who was rather absent-minded, was a report by Weissmann on Percy Bridgman's book, The Logic of Modern Physics. I guess Karl Menger, I think Karl Menger was there at least for one or two occasions. It was only late that Freddie Eyre, Sir Alfred Eyre, as of now, turned up. I don't think he came until the beginning of 1933, and I left for Prague on the 1st of March, 1933. So I overlapped with him a couple of months at the end of my 6 months or so in Vienna. But we became great friends and had good talks, and I was very much impressed with him.
Can you map out for us the major features of logical positivism?
Of course, one prominent feature that appealed to me was the use of modern logic, mathematical logic, especially at the hands of Carnap. One could also say Gödel, but Gödel wasn't pursuing the philosophy of it. Of course, and another conspicuous feature and notorious feature from the American point of view at that time was their condemnation of metaphysics as meaningless. That was their positivism in the narrow sense of the word, as I take it.
But they, of course, didn't actually refer to it as logical positivism.
No, no, and I didn't know a name of it for it in those days. The pamphlet, written largely by Hahn, but I guess others of the group had a hand in it, and it was not signed. It was a pamphlet of, what, 50 pages maybe? It was simply entitled Wissenschaftliche Weltauffassung der Wienerkreis. And so they didn't have a name. Later, the name that they seemed to favor, later years, was logical empiricism. And I don't know of any of them using the phrase logical positivism, but that became the usual term in America and I guess England. And it dates from an article in the Journal of Philosophy by Herbert Feigl and Albert Bloomberg, which may have been about 1935. It was about 1935, in which they gave it that name. I noticed that Eyre, in his Language, Truth, and Logic, which came out in '34, doesn't refer to it that way. And in fact, at one point, he expresses disapproval of positivism, which he is associating with Ernst Mach.
You said that you'd stayed in Vienna for approximately 6 months, is that correct?
Yes.
And you left ostensibly for Prague.
That's right.
Why were you going there?
Oh, because of Carnap. And it was Carnap, Carnap's writing that had appealed to me. Well, on the philosophical side, it was simply his writing that had appealed to me under the head of logical positivism. On the mathematical side, of course, Gödel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have eulogized Carnap as a lifelong teacher and correspondent, personal friend. Tell us a bit more about him. And his wife, was it Ina?
Ina, yes.
Ina.
Yes.
Tell us a little more about Carnap.
Yes, Carnap was very mild-mannered, methodical man, and very much a valetudinarian, I suppose you could say. He abstained from everything, abstained from coffee, tobacco, alcohol. He apparently was vigorous. He was vigorous and apparently quite regular about his exercise. He was great for skiing. Yes, he'd go on. Not that, but I knew from his correspondence, conversation. Long skiing weekends with other philosophers in the Tyrolese Alps. And he was he was very regular in his habits in other respects. Ina would say, when I would be, my wife and I would often went out to their flat for the day, on a day when Carnap wasn't coming in to lecture at the university. I always went, of course, to his lectures. Often we would go out, and I would spend the day discussing with Carnap, because I was reading by then his logical syntax, his logische Syntax der Sprache, which was just coming out of the typewriter, which Ina was typing. And I would take a sheaf of newly typed pages back to my hotel room and study them, and then I'd have a lot more to argue and discuss with Carnap about. And sometimes Ina would in fact, it seems to be usually, she would say to my wife and to me, oh yes, but we would stay for supper. And oh no, we can't do that. Let's go. She said, what would happen? And that was her unanswerable question, and we would stay, but she would warn us, after supper, no science. That was the phrase, science, no science, because if we talk science after supper, Carnap will lie awake all night. That's a regularity, to get back to a regularity of his habits. That was it.
Your next stop was Warsaw. Why did you go to Warsaw?
When I was still in Vienna, I wrote to Carnap and to somebody, maybe Hilbert, at Göttingen, Hilbert or Bernays or Ackermann, and to Mukasiewicz in Warsaw. At Vienna, I wasn't getting any logic. And logic was really what logic or philosophy, that highly logicized philosophy, such as I was getting from Carnap, was what I wanted in those days. And from Göttingen, I had a response that, well, no logic is going to be taught next term. And from Mukasiewicz, I had this very cordial response, oh yes, by all means come, and everybody talks German, and turned out to be true except for Sobocinski, who talked nothing but Russian and Polish at the time. He talks English now, if he still lives, of a sort. But and Mukasiewicz was so I went to Prague, and Carnap had been equally cordial, and so that accounted for my second semester. First Prague, then Warsaw.